talk, it's time to rock. Welcome to the channel, folks. We have an extra special show here. We have the Rock Professor back after a 2-week holiday. Brad, who's had a 2-week holiday.
Yep.
Andrew, who's had a 2-week holiday. And we've been boosted by the support of John, guys.
Yeah. So
I've been here all along.
It's good to be back, Andrew. Great to be back.
Yeah. Yes. Welcome to the middle of the night here in the UK.
Yeah, we thank you.
The lights.
Thank
The
you,
lights
Simon,
are out.
for dragging yourself out of bed for this one. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sorry to get you up so early, mate.
6 a.m.
No.
It's quite early. That is quite early.
No, we're not. We're not sorry.
I bet you're not.
It was Andrew's secret little plot all the way along to get you out of bed early.
Oh,
Simon.
good. Because I sleep so well.
Oh, yeah.
You'll be pleased to know when my plot to take over the world takes effect. I'm just making no time zones. Everybody's going to be on Melbourne time. Let the Americans have lunch in the dark.
That's fine.
That's true, yeah.
I don't know. These days, we wonder why the clocks go back and forth at spring and summer. Anyway, to be honest, but I think it's all getting a bit archaic. The reasons for it.
Yeah.
But we're still doing it.
Yeah. So I think, we'll probably be running the show because the Rock Professor's getting a little bit older and wiser. Notice I got myself out of that one
certainly
quickly.
wiser, no chance.
He's so freaking wise. He's hanging around with us.
More stupid by the minute.
So we'll certainly be starting the show this time during the summer and trying to keep at least the shows, guys, to at least 1.5 hours. And then if that becomes a problem, well, we can always come back for next week, can't we, Brad? We've done that before, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. We certainly have.
For our friends in North America, we want to say Happy Halloween or something like that, because it was Halloween a couple of days ago. So I don't know how long they celebrate Halloween for over there, but I've got to tell you guys, I've been watching some YouTube clips and where these American people put out bucket loads of candy. They call it in the States, Simon. Here in New Zealand and Australia, it's called lollies or sweets or something. But in America, it's candies. And you know how they have security cameras, John, outside their front doors, and it just shows these adults, these women walking up, Brad, and they're picking up the whole container and just tipping them in.
They're dumping the whole lot in their bags.
The whole lot, bro.
Yeah, greedy little bastard.
Never mind.
What I've been seeing a lot of is those sort of like motion detector ones, and the animals come like a raccoon trying to look in the bowl, and then all of a sudden the witch cackles and the raccoon does backflips and flies off the porch. That's entertaining.
Excellent.
Oh. Yeah. So our North American friends, if you're still celebrating Halloween, fantastic. Thank you. And we hope kids got your lollies and adults didn't steal them.
Could I say, in contrast, where I live, next door we've got a family with 2 small children, and I said to them, "Are you going to come around later?" "No." The kids like, "No." Can't be bothered with all of that nonsense. Dear me.
Well done. Some other news, Brad and John, especially from our historical perspective. November marks the release of Cream's Disraeli Gears in 1967, Brad. So work that out. What's that? 59 years?
58 years.
58 years.
58. Yeah.
67, you said, yeah?
67, yeah.
Yeah, 58.
2025. 58 years.
Wow.
Only.
That'll.
Yeah.
Bloody flying by.
Seems like yesterday I was going down to the local rug shop to pick up my cards. It's a bit early for me, but
Welcome to four old blokes talking about where did the time go.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows where the time goes?
Yeah, thank you guys for being patient for the last couple of weeks. As you know, I had some, last weekend we had a long weekend, so I had some things to do. In the weekend before that, I had some family time, so I couldn't do our normal weekly slot. But I'd like to do a special shout out to a dear friend of ours who has been helping me with the channel with some midweek shows. Carl, doing a couple of Rolling Stones shows over the last couple of weeks, guys. So I want to do a special shout out to Carl.
Yes,
and
Carl, the OG.
Yeah.
The founder of this channel, co-founder of the channel with you. It's been great to see him.
I only caught the first half of the last show. Did he make it through all the way?
Yeah,
Yes.
he did. He did. And
I
I want to
on the previous show, and then he sort of went blank.
Well, it's his camera on his laptop. Laptop cameras, as you guys know, they aren't the best. You need to go and get and he's going to think about doing that. But he's been enjoying spending a bit of time hanging out with us doing these midweek shows. So we got a couple of more shows to do, and then I think we'll just be doing these Sunday shows, guys. And we're planning behind the scenes. We're realizing that time is going to come to a quick end for the year, Brad, so we don't have too many shows up our sleeves, bro.
Not too many, no. And no, it was good to see Carl back on the channel again. It's been great to see him on the channel. But as you said, Andrew, there's a few shows that we've got to get under our belt, one of them being the Christmas show. So we need to work out, logistics and all that stuff, get that sorted. And we do our what's our one we do, the most liked and most hated or most disliked or whatever show as well. And so that's always a bit of fun. But we've got some fun stuff coming up for the rest of the year. So it should be fun. It'll be great. Yeah, look
forward to it. There's definitely going to be a few Beatles shows, but the Rock Professor picked the album by the Outlaws. It's their first album, Simon, that we're ranking. Am I correct?
Yeah,
next
correct.
week?
Yeah. First and best, I'm going to say.
Okay.
I don't wish to spoil it, but yeah. So
Fair
look
enough.
at that. So I'll just look at my calendar to see when we could do the Christmas show. You're surprised to learn we'd do it the Sunday before Christmas.
Yeah. So, but we'll certainly make that available for anybody that's joined us over the year that wants to jump in and hang out and pass on some Christmas and New Year's greetings. We look forward to it, and no doubt, John, you'll be on there with us, giving us a hand too. I'm sure, if you got some time.
Oh yeah, if they don't catch me first.
Yeah.
They always do.
Yeah. Rock Professor, you haven't done this for a while, but we've got a couple of people in the chat.
Yes. Don't worry. I've got
do you still know how to do it?
Probably. Well, John is first in. Good morning, John. Helene O'Hara. Good morning, Helene. Hope you're good. Gret Zeppelin. Morning, Gretch. It's got Arvin as well. Morning, Arvin. Thanks for the CD. It's really cool. I've been enjoying it last couple of weeks. We've got Johnny Heartbreaker as well. Morning, Johnny. Hope you're good. And this thing. So that's everyone who's made a comment. So thank you very much. Besides Brad, I shouldn't leave you out, Brad, should I? Just because you.
No.
So morning, everyone. We hope you're good and ready. I hope you've all done your homework.
Yes.
So Helene's taking us to task here. Have you done that AC/DC album Back in Black yet? No, we haven't, Helene.
No.
So no, we haven't. No, we haven't, and we promised we would do that this year. So someone has to pick that between now and Christmas. But yeah, we certainly will.
We under the cosh for it. Are we good? Excellent.
Yes. Yeah, we're going to get into trouble otherwise. And if you're watching on replay, if you're a Bruce Springsteen fan watching us on replay, because we'll post this on some Bruce Springsteen Facebook groups, please let us know what you think of our thoughts regarding the film that we're going to be talking about. And if you want to subscribe to our channel, please do, because we'll subscribe back. We really appreciate it. And Brad, you know, it's always a good thing to see some comments from people in the chat. Thank you for the nice comments that you gave to Carl too a couple of weeks ago as well. Appreciated that.
Yeah, no, it's always good to see people putting their 2 cents worth in the comments, as long as it's obviously not too rude and it's readable for younger adults and whatnot. So, yeah, we love reading all the extra comments there, and of course, you know, throw a nice comment there for Carl just to keep him, coming back. Andrew, we've got to lure these people back like Carl. We've got to keep him on, you know.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Hey guys, I just want to share one little thing with you guys before we start the show proper. Please forgive me for the little detour, but again, it fits into everything that is us here on the channel. I was watching pedal porn channel the other day, and one of the main guys, I forget his name, was talking about how he was really, really disappointed that people were making negative, horrible, disparaging comments to that young guy who's the young guy that's the Stevie Ray Vaughan nut, who was on their channel recently. And so I made the comment, why, fair enough, you are saying, who the hell are you for making these comments? I appreciate that. But why aren't you deleting these comments, Simon? Because we do.
Yeah. It does
just
seem,
get rid of them, ban them.
I think it might be more to do with, if you leave them up, the more content there, Andrew. Is that what it is, or am I wrong with that?
I think you're right, Brad. This is channels that want to do that, and that's fine if you want to operate your channel like that. But don't talk about then, on the one hand, how you shouldn't be doing that if you're not deleting the comments.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I can't remember who was saying it, and if it was a YouTube thing or another online thing, but they were talking about people leaving bad comments. They get deleted straight away. And he said, it doesn't affect me and it doesn't worry me. And they're not really talking to me. They're talking to their other people that feel the same way. And the trolls just want to, get out there to the other trolls, basically. So, I've always thought leave it up there and let it shame the people who put it there. But I think that's kind of convinced me, just don't give them a platform. And as soon as that sort of stuff comes in, get it out.
No. If you just make a stand, we're not doing negative stuff about the people who come on or anything like that. It just isn't going to happen. If you want to go and be negative, go elsewhere. There's plenty of corners of the internet where you can, sit in the corner like Gollum and mutter to yourself. That's fine, but it's not happening here. If you don't. If this isn't fun for you, if it's not anything, or we're not making you fall asleep, Insomniac special for, over here in the UK, then go away and do something else. I cannot see the point, and I don't think it should be tolerated myself.
Yeah, I think it's getting to a point for a channel like Pedal Porn for them to maybe, if depending on how many negative comments there are, guys. They've got quite a fair few subscribers and they get a lot of traffic from non-subscribers as well. It would almost turn into somewhat of a full-time job to have to monitor that. And maybe they're not doing it and they'll get back to it or whatever, or maybe they're just leaving it up for the same reasons that John mentioned before, to name and shame them. But I personally think there's no room for it. And, if it's getting to that point where there's a lot of negativity towards anyone individually or a channel, I think it should be removed. That's just you know, I've done it on my, you know, channel, and I've done it on my socials as well. When people comment about, sort of put a negative comment up about one of the members of the band I play with, or this or that, I think that's not really necessary. You know, it's unfair to do that. And or myself, I mean, when I get them, I brush it off. But for other people, they might have insecurities about something, and it's not nice. I mean, usually you look at if it's a social media post, and you can look at their profile pic, and you can actually just determine what sort of person they are from that sometimes. But without, I don't like being judgmental either. But usually you can see, well, this person, of course, they're going to make that comment. Look at them, you know what I mean? But personally, I don't think there's any room for it, and I firmly believe, Andrew, you know, I stand by you wholeheartedly when you say remove any negativity. Goodbye, it's got to go. And cheers.
Look, thank you, and thank you, Helene, for the super chat. We really appreciate it.
That's very kind.
Thank you, Helene.
Yeah, it means a lot. Look, and we've said this again. We're not editing your opinions here. If you disagree with something we've said, or disagree with an album or a song, or you know, you're free to say that. You're free to say, I think your opinion on And Your Bird Can Sing, Rock Professor, is completely incorrect. It's a Brad score, and you've only ranked it 9 out of 10. How dare you?
Well, that's all right. But, you know, I think that's a healthy discussion about, you know, whatever we're doing. I think that's absolutely fine. But just being nasty to people for the hell of it is just, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think
there's a fine line. There's a fine line, guys. It can be all in good fun, or you know, it's fine to have, everyone's got an opinion, and it's great to share your opinion, but it's how you go about it, I think, which is the sentiment that's there. If it's in humor, or if it's you know, Rock Professor ranks a song, you know, 7.5 out of 10, and I go, yeah, how dare you? That I mean that in good fun, yeah. But if it's a personal attack at the channel, or someone in particular on the channel, or a guest or something like that, that won't be tolerated, not at all.
No, it won't be. And like I say, I found it interesting that I made the comment a couple of times. If you guys are really concerned about this, delete the comments. Simple. It's just get rid of them.
Yeah.
But you know, you can run your channel. You know, but yeah, I just thank you guys. I just wanted to share that with you, because I know that we are inspired by that channel, and you know, I've been following that young guy for a couple of years. You know, so what if he adores Stevie Ray Vaughan, and so what if he wants to be a Stevie Ray Vaughan clone, and he dreams that he's Stevie Ray Vaughan? Brilliant.
Good on him.
Let him go.
He'll find his path when it's time for him to find his path.
Live and let live. Let people be, and let people enjoy life, and enjoy what brings them joy. What brings him joy is listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan. Hey, it could be a hell of a lot worse. So, you know, hey, the more people that fly the flag for Stevie Ray Vaughan, the better, I say.
Johnny, and never take on board an insult from anyone that you won't take advice from.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Johnny Heartbreaker says, the day I gave a 0 out of 10 was the greatest moments on the channel's history. So I gave something a 0. Yeah, that's it. No,
yeah.
Like, what
thank you, Johnny.
Morning, Tony.
And
how you doing?
And thank you, Johnny, also for being a subscriber here. For being a channel member as well too, and I think Arvin is here as well too. So thank you guys.
Yes, thank you.
So we'll kick the show off. So obviously, if you guys aren't familiar, when Brad was in Europe just over a year ago, we had the very good fortune of doing a couple of Bruce Springsteen shows here on the channel, and I tapped into the years of experience and accumulated knowledge from the Rock Professor and from John. And learnt a lot over those shows because I am unashamedly a casual Springsteen fan. So, you know, the fact that we've done a couple of those shows and it kind of spurred me on a little bit to sort of follow, you know, Springsteen. I read a couple of books as well, you know, well, flicked through them. And then when I found out that they were going to do a biopic of a important period in his life, Simon, we all got excited because we thought this could be really, really interesting. It'll be really, really cool to see where it went. We knew the book that it was going to be based on, and if you guys just give me 2 seconds, it's this book here.
Warren Zane.
Warren Zane's book that it's based
I haven't
on.
read it. Have you guys read it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I listened to the audio book, John. It's on Amazon Prime, I think.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, worth checking out, certainly, and in conjunction to the film. So anyway, you know, like a lot of us, we're getting pretty excited because I love music biopic films. So I just think they're incredible. And we've been lucky and fortunate over the years to have some really, really good ones, Simon. You know, we've been lucky this year. We've had 3. We had the documentary Becoming Led Zeppelin.
Yep.
At the beginning of the year, we had the Bob Dylan film, which we said we'd do a show about, but didn't because we did other things, as usual. But we made a point between the 4 of us that we were going to get together and talk about this because I think it's an important part of rock and roll history. Personally, this film's depiction of events. So I'm glad, you know, from an archaeology point of view that we like to do here, that we're doing this, and we've got the rock professor and John's knowledge to kick off. He's got a couple of minutes. He's got 5 minutes to talk about his impressions of the film. We're going to pass it on to John, followed by Brad, who, if I'm able to say from my conversations with Brad's a little bit like me, and a surface level sort of Springsteen fan. So the ring-ins will follow the experienced dudes.
Yes.
Yeah. Get on it, boys. Stop messing about. Get on it properly.
Simon.
Well, yes. So I went to see it on Wednesday. It's on a wet Wednesday morning in Weston-super-Mare. There were about, I don't know, 3 other people in the cinema, so it wasn't, 20 to 12 was not going to be full. But this week it's been number 1 in the box office in the UK, which, having seen it, I must say I was quite surprised by, but in a good way. But I was surprised. I didn't think it would make it in particularly as number 1, but it is number 1 in the UK for this week. I think that's because all the Springsteen people went to see it. I'm not sure that it may be number 1 next. It's not. In the words of the great Roger Corman, it's not a film that could be improved by having 30 minutes cut out of it and a helicopter explosion. It's not one of those. But so, just a small amount of background. In 1981, Springsteen reached the end of his world tour to support the river, and he goes back to New Jersey and rents a house in Colts Neck, New Jersey, freehold. And he basically, while he's sort of holed up there, recovering from the tour, he gets one of these new TIAC 4-track cassette, to make demos on, and just in the bedroom, sets it up in the bedroom and makes demos. And out of that demos comes the framework for Born in the USA, but also out of that framework comes these songs that form Nebraska, and those collection of stark somber songs with a blue collar perspective, and influenced by his childhood memories as well, and his sort of ongoing or sort of beginning of his sort of mental health problems and stuff, depression and things that he's had throughout the rest of his life, as a recognition of those things. But yeah, it's a film about interiors. His interior, the interior of Colt's Net, the housing Colt's Net, where he, pretty much sits alone. He has a guitar tech called Mike Batlin, who but basically sitting there just writing these stark songs, and it's the story surrounding that, which I think is it's completely different from most biopics, like with the Dylan one that Andrew was, they have a kind of arc, don't they? Dylan is all about the lead up to the Newport Folk Festival and him going electric. I think it's a lead up to that, from his past up to that point, which is a particular point in his career. Whereas this is not really that, is it? It's not. It doesn't. It has flashbacks to his childhood, but it's not a narrative that starts with his childhood and goes through with the influences and whatever. And if you go and see the Queen one or the Elton John one, they're pretty straightforward narrative arcs, of them growing up and becoming who they were, and then ending at some point, that's a particular milestone in their careers. Whereas this is not that at all, as I say, which is why I was rather surprised, having been to see it, that it was number one. I think all the Springsteen fans must have gone to see it. But I have to say, without giving too much away, I was a bit surprised by it and not disappointed. I think that actually has a I describe it almost as a film noir. It reminds me of those film noir kind of, dark, European pictures of the 60s and 70s. It has more in common with those than it does some sort of blockbuster, American thing. So I was, really surprised that that's what they've done. Even though I have listened to the book, but I didn't really know what they do with it really as a film. But as I say, it's a film about interiors, the interior of his head, the interior of the Colt's Neck house, really, and the studio where he records some stuff for the E Street Band for Born in the USA. But that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that it's a really interesting way. I think it has, the narrative themes in it are really interesting and, tied together really well. I like the early stuff with his parents and things that I thought tied it into where he was. I was pleasantly surprised. John, do you want to, what
That's awesome.
If you're going next, go next.
Yeah, well, again, obviously the movie is based on a book which I haven't read, so I can't really speak to how faithful or how comprehensively it exactly matched the book or not. Springsteen's autobiography that came out a few years back either. But having read different books and bits and pieces over the years since I suppose 1984 when I first got into his music and then sort of delved into his back catalogue from there and then followed it along forwardly. I knew the basics of the story of what happened with this album, and it's an interesting approach to take. Just as you said, just a period of someone's life for a biopic. But this is probably the ideal album to do that because it really was a self-contained sort of period of his life, sandwiched between two big tours, where he just created this album kind of accidentally. Andrew and I did a show a while back, just having a chat about the album. And I probably gave a bit more of an idea of the history of it. Also, I won't go over that again. And if anybody wants to go back and watch that for info, they can. But basically, yeah, he wouldn't be, spending money writing songs in the studio on the clock on paid time, which again, remember we're talking 1982 here, so the stuff that we can do on our computers nowadays, wasn't available. And what he found on certain songs that really stayed with him was that he couldn't replicate the feeling and the atmosphere of those songs with the band, or even re-recording them himself on professional equipment. And I fully expected to go in to see a film more to do with the the technical process and the issues that they had on a more sort of like how they're actually going to manufacture vinyl records and cassette tapes, which were the two demos. Once he insisted that he wanted that as the album, to actually get them to be able to be released. But it turned out to be more to do with Bruce's story than the album's story, which is fair enough. And I don't know if that's kind of been a bit spoilerish in itself to sort of like anyone who hasn't seen the film hears that and now doesn't have that surprise that I did. And the other thing I thought too was like, who's this movie for? Obviously, Springsteen fans would be interested in it, but is this an interesting enough story, or have enough to bring in people that maybe aren't familiar with him already, or have no particular interest in the background of him putting this album together or his life in general? And as a bit of a sort of experiment, and being that my daughter and I talk music and talk about what she likes as well, I sort of invited her to go along with me, and she said yes. So I had the pleasure of seeing the film with her, and she brought the perspective of someone who, only knows Bruce Springsteen pretty much as the guy that her dad likes to listen to, and probably knows a couple of the more well-known songs that you hear just from being on Earth, but has never really delved into the catalogue. And so I was eager to, knowing that we had this coming up, and I'm not a cinema guy. If I wasn't asked to come on this show, I would have waited for the DVD. Okay. But yeah, so we went in and watched it together, and she enjoyed it, and she gave me her views on it, and we had a good 1 hour drive home, so we had a good chat in the car as well. So definitely, from talking to her as well, she says that I said, is this something that just only a Springsteen fan can enjoy? She said, no, I thought the story was pretty engaging and interesting, and she got a bit of perspective on the creative process, and obviously, she's 19, so seeing the probably look like an episode of Stranger Things for her, with the telephones on the wall and a constant crowd and no one's holding up a phone. I think that much like you said, I think whenever you have either an album or a movie like this where there's a fan base behind it, the real test in the numbers is what it does in its second and third week, because the real fans aren't going to bother to wait. They're then to see it day one, and we'll just see if this has got enough push behind it, or if it gets enough word of mouth, because it might be a sort of a thing where, and I've seen it happen with other movies, that maybe the trailer doesn't engage you, and maybe the subject matter doesn't engage you, but once enough people start talking about it, and then it just becomes everywhere, that people go and see it. There's definitely been some movies and TV shows that, I don't go looking for that sort of stuff, but then you hear everyone's talking about this particular one. So this may or may not do that. I've heard good praise for the actors in it. And I think they did a great job. I remember when I first saw the trailer, I just couldn't. I thought to myself, I'm not going to get used to Jeremy White's face being Bruce Springsteen. But by the time I saw the film, I got right into it. I thought it would be a major distraction, and it wasn't at all. And then I thought the opposite thing of just from the trailer, I was amazed at how closely Jeremy Strong portrayed John Landau. I thought it was a fantastic impression. And in interviews with both Bruce and the actor that played him, Bruce was saying, this guy's not doing an imitation of me, but he's making it his own, and he's giving the essence. I felt he was, to my mind, it felt like he was doing a bit of an imitation from him. And I'm not familiar with the actor's other work either. So, and my daughter was, and she noticed a few things about it. But I thought that, yeah, he was doing a bit of an impression of him. And I found it a little bit distracting at times. But generally, through most of the film, he was Bruce for me, and I think that all in all, they did a great job encapsulating that period of his life.
Cool, thanks. Brad, you go next.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, the movie delivered me from nowhere. It really captured me. I must admit. At first, I went in. Obviously, I always go into these biopic sort of situations. Whether I know a lot about the artist or not, with an open mind. I'm the opposite, John. My partner and myself, we sometimes go and watch films. Every couple of weeks, we'll go and watch a film that we think, I like old movies. I like really powerful movies. I like good acting. I like getting sucked into the movie, and you feel like you're actually part of it. And that's what happened to me during this film. I must admit, my partner, same thing. Jackie, thought it was a very powerful film. I thought Jeremy White acted intense. He had that internal sort of performance of someone going through all that stuff down pat. I mean, you got sucked into it. It was a very powerful performance on his part. Now, I'll make this quite clear in a disclaimer. I'm not a huge Bruce Springsteen fan, and I like Bruce Springsteen. I play some of his songs in an 80s band. I don't have a problem with him, but I knew a little bit about his background, but not as much as what you do, John or Simon. But going into this, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't watch any shorts. I didn't want to really sort of ruin it for myself. I thought I'd go in with an open mind, and I must admit, I was, it sucked me in from the word go. The themes that I thought, they really captured well in the film were the isolation, Bruce Springsteen, the way he isolated himself, and the honesty behind his intention as a musician. And that is to be commended for Bruce Springsteen, and the way they portrayed that in the film was extremely well done. The father-son conflict, and when I say the honesty, I'll go to the next thing I wrote down: art versus fame. What he perceived as what was more important to him was his art than the fame. He wasn't necessarily concerned about releasing singles from this record, and he just wanted it to be an album from start to finish that people got into and actually connected with. And that was something that I think is very commendable. A lot of bands used to do that back in the day. The anti machine, they call it, wanted to just be an art piece as opposed to a big single release and a follow-up single and big film clips and all that. I thought they captured that so well. The early setting, the way they captured that, in the 80s in New Jersey, Springsteen, recording alone on a 4-track cassette recorder, which I thought that in itself was very cool that they focused on that, because that was a big part of the Nebraska album that had the stripped down feel, and the way that he was so adamant about the fact he wanted the minimalistic sounds on there. But the film felt that through from start to finish. It had a minimalistic feel in visual and sound, which sort of mirrored the album, that stripped down feel, which I thought that in itself was very cool as well. It's quite moody. The character is overpowering the music, like what I'm saying there. It's more about Bruce Springsteen than the music, which I thought was cool because, as a music buff, like John, you mentioned you thought might be more about the recording process maybe and this and that, but it's cool that they focused more on Bruce's internal, I like to call them internal demons, and trying to overcome them, and the conflict internally with himself, and all the trauma that he went through as a young kid, and put him in that frame of mind where he was depressed. I really enjoyed how they put that in. It's obviously it's not a full career biopic. It's just based around that time frame, and the way the film ends, I won't say how it ends, but it ends on a note that makes you feel like obviously there was hope for him. Now, if you weren't a music buff, you didn't know anything about Bruce Springsteen, you knew absolutely nothing about the music industry, but you went to see that film, the way they ended that would have you guessing what happened. Or don't end it like that. But we all know how Bruce became successful and was a massive, and still is a massive part of the music world. So that being said, that was the film for me. I mean, I've got to say that the acting, the authenticity, it's very intimate sort of part of Bruce Springsteen's life, and it's been put on film. I've never read the book, so that from me, Warren Zane's book, Deliver Me From Nowhere, I haven't read it. So just seeing the film in itself, I think it was a really powerful film. And being someone who likes really powerful films, like especially the majority of the films that are my favorites are from, the 90s, 80s, 70s, like I've just some real truth to them. And I felt like this one had that there. It was very creative and truthful. The complexities of Bruce Springsteen at that period of his time, I think they captured that so well. And without sort of spoiling it for anyone who haven't seen it, I think it's a great film that you should definitely go and watch. From my perspective, are we going to give these a ranking, Andrew? We'll do it later. I think we should.
We'll do it later, bro.
Yeah, that's pretty much my take on the film, guys. And thanks for listening, guys. Andrew.
No problem. Appreciate it, Simon. Appreciate it, John and Brad, for giving me your thoughts. And obviously, if anybody in the chat's seen the film, obviously, please share us your thoughts. And if you're watching on a replay, let us know what your thoughts are regarding the film, because there will be some spoilers, unfortunately, in the general discussion.
Andrew, let's ask now. I think it'd probably be good for us if everyone who's in the chat at the moment just gives us a heads up if they have seen it or not, and if they're interested in seeing it or they plan to or not, just to know where you guys see it as well.
And hopefully, if you haven't, maybe our conversation might force you to go along and watch it, because I think there's a general consensus there that you won't be disappointed from that experience. Like Brad, I'm a casual Springsteen fan. I did flick through the book. I managed to get a copy of the book, but like a lot of books, you're not sure, Simon, on how a film is going to take a book, so I was a little bit like John. I kind of thought maybe it was going to be sort of like a documentary style kind of thing to talk about, the technology side of how they were doing the album, and specifically the themes that we know that motivated Springsteen, Flannery O'Connor, as an example. If you have a look at the film, there's a couple of references there to him writing songs, and there's Flannery O'Connor's book. I forget the title of the book, and it focuses on that. And, Flannery O'Connor is one of my favorite authors. Southern Gothic is the special category that they created for her. But one of the things that motivated Bruce Springsteen after reading her was how he had to put more detail into his lyrics, Simon, regarding the characters from his perspective. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that thought. So that's pretty much what I knew at the start before I went to go and see it. But I have to tell you that I was completely blown away by it. I thought the guy acting as Bruce Springsteen did a fantastic job, to the point where he put Brad, what do you call it? Those things that you put on your eyes? Contacts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he did, didn't he?
And he played, chords properly, just those little detailed things. The production was incredible. John, you mentioned that. The production, you really believed, that you were there with him when he was buying his first car. You really were there, Brad, when he was gunning it all the way back after disappointing that girl, and he was going for it, and he could have spun out and killed himself, but, didn't.
Yeah. I loved that bit too. That was great.
Yeah. And you're sitting there thinking, because I had no idea, then you get a real idea, Simon, of and you said it a couple of weeks ago, the existential crisis that, Bruce Springsteen was going through, where he smacks the seat on the car because the girl that he's dating wants more from him, but he can't give more because he's got nothing to give, because he doesn't, and you pick that up and it's like, wow, this dude's, and he doesn't want to hurt people, but obviously, clearly the girl is hurt. Yeah. Blew me away. And then obviously, the big part for me too, and I had a conversation with John about this after I saw it, if you've had difficult relationships with your father growing up, you can kind of resonate a little bit there, because, it's something obviously that you've kind of experienced to a little degree, or maybe even more traumatic than what Bruce went through. But the point is, Bruce and his dad, as Brad said, managed to get over that, because his dad was going through his own problems as well. And I liked that. That they included that in the story. So it's a real, if you're talking about a Bruce Springsteen film, Simon, where you've got characters with lives, this is the film that's done it for me, because all the characters have their lives, and it's all there for that point of importance for Bruce Springsteen and his career. One point though, before I open up to a general conversation, how cool was it when they were in New York and they're recording Born in the USA, and that snare drum comes in, and then everybody behind the control panel and Landau character pumps the air, and they've got these $1 million smiles, John, because they know this
big. Yeah,
this is going to be, and then he turns around and says, "Nah, we're not releasing it."
Yeah.
Was it Jimmy Iovine that had heard Born in the USA and said, you can release Born in the USA and 9 other shit songs and it'll be a hit?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That bit with Jimmy Iovine on the phone is really funny as well, isn't it? What a typical Iovine. And it was Jimmy Iovine as well. It was actually him on the phone, which is really funny.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. But I have to agree with you guys too. The guy that acted as the manager, Landau, is a famous actor.
Jeremy Strong. Yes, they're all called Jeremy.
Strong. But boy, he nailed.
Brilliant.
You know,
sounded exactly like him.
Oh boy, he nailed that character. And you know, we were talking a couple of weeks ago, guys, about record companies. Do they matter anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is an example where the record company did really matter because they listened to the management and the artists, didn't they? They kind of pushed back. Which you would but in the end, they let it go. And Simon, wow.
Yeah, no interviews, no press, no tour.
Yeah.
And to give context to that, Bruce had just come off having a successful album and tour, and his first top 10 charting single that was very popular. And obviously the record company is looking for capitalization, momentum, getting the next thing in a sort of like in a manner, in a sound that builds upon what came before to capitalize on what they've got. And funnily enough, again, this process that he went into of writing a bunch of songs and then wanting to release the demos as they were because he wasn't satisfied with the re-recordings of them. The songs that were re-recorded and did sound good went on to make a big chunk of the next album, which was super successful, put Bruce in a position in 1984 and 85, like what we just saw with Taylor Swift, that he was everywhere. He was on every TV show, on the front of every paper, every magazine, you know, and Born in the USA ended up being a 12-track album that had 7 singles, and a lot of them like big songs: Dancing in the Dark, Cover Me, I'm on Fire, Glory Days, all that did well on the charts and were being played all over the video shows, and everybody knew them. So yes, they were expecting that to be the next album, but sandwiched in between there, we've got this little detour into a stark bunch of songs that are just a guy in a chair with an acoustic guitar and a harmonica and a voice. So it turned out to be a very interesting story in the way that came about. And yeah, having said that, I sort of went in there sort of looking to see more of a storytelling of what they had to do to get this album out. Perhaps I'd be better served with a documentary of the real stuff happening for that. But the story of Bruce himself in that period, I think this movie has done a great job on that.
Yeah, I think that it makes it quite deep, doesn't it? As a film, it has. I mean, those the themes. I thought themes of that tremendous. I think it's been there ever in their 50-year relationship. The trust and the brotherhood and the love between Bruce and John Landau, I think, is brought out, and clearly, you know, John Landau going to the record company and going, "You're not getting what you think you're getting."
Yeah,
you know, and I think that that beautiful bit is where he's just about to move out of the house, and he says, "Let's just play a record," and they sit down, don't they? Sit down on the floor, and they play I didn't know it before, but they played "The Last Mile of the Way" by Sam Cooke, which is it's worth going and checking out. It's an amazing kind of spiritual gospel song if you've not heard it. But that's what apparently they started. They started, you know, because they like the same records, so they would say, "Have you heard this?" And apparently, it's that Jeremy Strong, who plays John Landau, texted Springsteen and asked him, "What one song would you play to save someone's life?" And Springsteen, after a few hours of thinking about it, came back and said, "The Last Mile of the Way" by Sam Cooke. And then Strong then went into the filming the next day and said, "I want to try something." So that bit came from Jeremy Strong, you know, but it really showed that kind of brotherhood between the two of them, you know, and their bond with the same kind of music. And but I think that's one of the things, and I think he's the as Brad you said, that the difference between artistic vision and commercial goals, and trying to balance those things, and John Landau says, doesn't he, you're in the office of Bruce Springsteen now. We believe in Bruce Springsteen, and, kind of laying it down, which was I think I've heard a couple of people say, if I was the manager, I'm not sure I'd be doing that. But so it takes a particular kind of strength and their relationship. I think that, as you said, the kind of underlying men's health theme, mental health theme, that is very prevalent these days is, and I think that been central to Bruce's life all the way along. I think that was really another really interesting theme that they did really well. So I think there's a lot in there if you're not a Bruce Springsteen fan.
Definitely.
I love the technical details of, but we're gonna go off and cut this record. Well, I can cut the grooves so they're less deep than.
Well, that was the big thing, and again,
It's funny.
The one of the reasons I really wanted my daughter to come along is to get that perspective, because for people who weren't alive in 1982 or have forgotten what things were like about that, what we're talking about here is, number one, the way the record companies worked is that you wouldn't get away with that today. We spoke on that recent show how there's a singer who had a reasonable reception to an album, but it wasn't enough for the record company to want to let her release another album follow-up, because it didn't have the engagement that they wanted, even though in the sort of the current climate and what could be expected, in all honesty, it was a rather successful album. So back then, record companies would give you a couple of albums to find your footing, and I think I know that probably Landau at the time, knowing what they had in their back pocket with the tracks that would go on to become Born in the USA and would feed off the ramping up of what they had previously done with Darkness, On the Edge of Town, and The River, that they would be able to come back and successfully course correct back onto their trajectory that they had. But I don't know whether a record company would take that these days. And then also the whole thing of saying we're not touring, we're not doing interviews, and we're not doing any other sort of promotion for it. That's way before the internet took over everything. We know now that if you don't do anything, people still know what's going on in your backyard. Back then, if it wasn't in the magazines, wasn't on the TV, wasn't in the newspapers, it wasn't happening. You had no idea of it. So,
on the other hand, John, I think that sorry guys, and I'll let you guys have a go. But that in 1981, if you'd read that Bruce Springsteen, you would have read in the NME or the Melody Maker that Springsteen was releasing a new album. That's how you knew. And the music business was small enough so that it would be, any album he did would be big news, and the fact there was an acoustic would have been big news back in in music paper world. I know it's an analog thing, but I think that it's Brad.
I've just been sitting back listening to you, Springsteen, nuts going on about this, and I'm really enjoying it. So I put myself on mute.
It's fine.
As a musician, I love the fact that they really focused on that art versus fame factor. I really enjoyed that, and the lengths they went to try and recapture. Obviously they tried to re-record in the studio what he'd captured on the 4-track recorder, and they couldn't. And there was obviously a hauntingness to the 4-track recordings that he wanted to be on the record and couldn't reproduce them. And and I think nearly every single musician that's been writing songs and recorded has been down that path themselves, where they've gone demoed a song, demoed music, and then you go into the studio and you try and recapture what you've demoed, and it never seems to be quite as good as the demos. And that's one thing I try to instill and talk to my son about, because he's doing a music production course at TAFE at the moment. And I keep telling him that one thing I learned in my time in a band called The Eternal was the singer, producer, Mark Kelson, was always very adamant about the fact that the stuff we were demoing would be what would be released. So we would, Pro Tool sessions open, record, do all that stuff. You get the demos down. You pretty much recapture that in the studio as much as possible. But there would be a lot of times that you would utilize the guitar or vocals or whatever from your demo, because sometimes your ear gets so.
Hey, Sonia.
Hey, Sonia.
Sorry, bro.
Right.
Sorry, bro. I'm just saying we haven't seen Sonia for years. Sorry, bro.
Hey, Sonia, welcome back.
Sorry, bro.
Lovely to see you.
My apologies.
Hope you're well.
All good. Sometimes your ears are so adjusted to what you've been listening to. And let me tell you, my friends, when you're recording stuff, especially at home, you're listening over and over and over and over and over. The amount of times you've heard your song, you hate it by the time it's released, because you've heard it that many times, you're sick of it. But what I'm getting at is your ears are adapted to that. And then to go into a studio and try and recapture that, sometimes you're extremely disappointed. And sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're pleased with the result and think it's better. But I love the fact that they honed in on that, as well as his mental health struggles. But the thing I think was, really good is it proved that a musician, if they stick to their guns and they believe in what they're doing, everything else has to fall in around it. Record companies are not like they used to be anymore. That's not, that back then it was the musician had to pretty much, dictate what was going to happen for their career, when these days a career is made by a record company, if there is one. You know what I mean? Like they'll put something together and produce it. And I just love the fact that he was so adamant about the fact that the demos he did was what he wanted actually released, and the lengths they went to try and make sure that transferring it from the 4-track recordings on a TDK tape or whatever it was to proper, 2.5-inch tape or whatever it is, analog. They actually managed to do it through 3 or 4 or 5 different processes. They managed to do that. I would love to know more detail about that, but in a picture, in a film scenario, I think they maybe explored that enough. I think because for the non-musician, that would get a little bit tedious if it was potentially overdone. But that was something that I thought was really cool, that Bruce, if that was portrayed pretty much truthfully to what happened back in the day, I thought that was really inspiring as a musician.
Yeah. Do you think, Brad? Andrew, you could. Do you think that one of the things I felt about that recording on a TAC 4-track was the beginning of the sort of lo-fi, Americana thing almost? You can. I'm not saying just a Bruce, but because it kind of follows on from that punk thing, that kind of home ethos. But nowadays you can record an album on a laptop, no problems at all. But I felt like there was a very strong link between what he was doing there and the kind of Americana stuff of the late 90s and early 2000s, and that lo-fi sort of movement that was particularly in America and things. So
yeah,
it's always interesting. It's always interesting, though, Simon, to answer your question from my perspective. The desire, even in 1978 or 79, to find this connection back to the past through technology, because they make reference to the fact that they wanted reverb to sound like Elvis records, in Sun Studios, because Bruce was concerned, John and Brad, with this idea of the sound and the aura that you were getting the effect of the sound that you were hearing was just as important as the message or the words or the lyrics, that he was giving to you as a listener. Yeah. And, again, that blew me away. Also the fact too, because the guy's clearly a poet, so he's sitting at home, he's watching TV, he comes across that film Badlands, which is Terrence, gosh, he's, yes, he directed The Thin Blue Line, A Hidden Life, so anyway, Bruce is watching this film about this young guy that goes on a murder spree. And so what does he do for his research, Brad and Simon? He doesn't just pick up his phone key in Google. He goes to the library and he does it the old-fashioned way with microfiche films, So if you're a vintage, you might remember that when you went to the library and you wanted a book, that's how the catalogs were. I'm that old. Brad wouldn't know anything about that.
No, the youngster.
but finding that information, for him, to write this incredible opening track, John, on that album, and how he changes we, on the lyrics, and we see that on the film to I, which is, the Flannery O'Connor influence coming through,
Oh, interesting.
Just mind-blowing film.
Yeah. Andrew, that he, following that research, he phoned up one of the people who'd written those articles in the local newspaper. He phoned her up and spoke to her about Charlie Starkweather and about all of that when he was doing the research. Which is,
I think that's in the film too, isn't it? That's.
Does he speak? I don't think he. Oh no, I didn't think he spoke to her, but maybe he said something about it. But that was that's really interesting. That's really interesting about the Flannery O'Connor influence of doing the I bit. That's interesting.
Can we just take a couple of seconds, the four of us, and just do a special shout out to Sonia, because she's one of the OGs of the channel.
She is.
She's just been through. She broke her back in another spot. So, but she's on the mend, and she's going to be back as a regular again. Wow, aren't we lucky?
Oh, Sonia, that's fantastic.
Wow. Beautiful.
Yes, and playing your guitar as well, which is even better.
But so thank you, Sonia, for jumping on. And but yes, Simon, just again, those little details that reveal to me this desire and this search within this guy to get the stuff out, and he's getting himself out as well too, Brad. It's,
yeah.
No, I've got a couple of links. He in the middle of the film he plays that Suicide song, Frankie Teardrop. I remember I've seen Suicide. They supported. This is weird. They supported the Clash in 1978 and they played in Bristol with the Specials. If you remember them, a ska band. They supported both. And that's what I was thinking. I've seen Suicide. And I don't know if you listened to Frank. It was a pretty harrowing 10 minutes of a bit like, killing everybody and stuff. It's quite scary, actually.
I found it interesting too that definitely around the time between 77 to the Nebraska time, Bruce was listening to a lot of punk and a lot of more music like that. But then the other thing, and I know we're not delving into it in great detail, but at the same time the movie's been released, they've released the remastered version of Nebraska along with the other songs that were recorded that didn't make the album. and the electric versions of the songs that didn't measure up to the demos, as well as the stuff that was originally recorded and then ended up on Born in the USA. But I found it interesting that a lot of the stuff that he did for Nebraska, when he tried to do it with the band, had very much a rockabilly influence and sound to it, which is very strange considering that the sound that he had on Darkness and Evolving to the River and Evolving to Born in the USA didn't really have that sound about it. So again, even that Nebraska was a deviation from, like, if Nebraska wasn't there, you'd think it was a very linear, movement in the stylistically between Darkness, River, and Born in the USA. But even if they would have used the electric Nebraska songs, that would have been a deviation because a lot of it was very rockabilly sounding and not punk at all.
Stuff,
which seemed to be what he was really into at the time.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? You think about that, John. You think about harking back to the late 50s is only like 15 years before.
Oh yeah,
which is But did you enjoy the fact that a journalist asked Springsteen, like recently, said, what about the electric versions of the songs on the Nebraska? And is there an electric album? No, there's not an electric album. Then went back to the archives, discovered that there was. Texted the bloke back going, actually, there is.
Well, we knew that there were, because the simple fact of the matter is why it came out was they tried to record it and it didn't work. So obviously they existed. Now as to whether they got all the way through it or if they were,
I don't think
of any merit at all. And in one of the things I've heard him say, he goes, I feel kind of bad. I was watching the movie saying how bad they were. They weren't really that bad. They just weren't what the demo was. And
that's right, yeah.
And I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to them, Simon, but I took advantage of a long drive to work to throw it in the day that it came out on Spotify. And I have to say, they made absolutely the right decision. All the songs that were recorded that, like, you listen to the Electric Nebraska versions of songs that were on the Nebraska album, they're not bad, but they're not what came out on the album. 100%. Yeah, there's a magic to those recordings, those original recordings. The songs that did sound better, well, they made the right decision with them too, because they ended up being the backbone of Born in the USA. And like, I love, from the day that I heard it, I loved Downbound Train from Born in the USA, and was really interested in hearing the Nebraska version. And funnily enough, the Nebraska version was a fast.
It's punky thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and then the electric Nebraska version of Downbound Train is still a fast one, but just with the whole band, and not a pinch on what was released. Pretty much everything that they did, the outtakes, not as good as the songs on the album. The electric versions, not as good as the demos that were released, and anything that was ended up on Born in the USA was not as good as what ended up on Born in the USA. Again, my opinion, as all music discussion is only an opinion, but I think they did a very smart move on what was released and what wasn't released.
I agree with you completely, John. I mean, I knew you were going to ask about this, so I've listened to the whole of it, and you're absolutely right. It's like you just go, well, they just made all the right decisions, didn't they?
Yeah.
They just did. The album worth having out of that box set, I would say, is the album that's released, Nebraska. That the other stuff is for, particularly if you're a massive fan and you want all the completed recordings, then get the re-released Nebraska. But to be honest, get Born in the USA and get Nebraska, and if you can live stuff, and they do some of those songs live, don't they, quite often, and they built them into something that the band can actually do, which is very different to those electric recordings. So
I've got to say though,
just get Nebraska. It's fine.
I am partial to the band version of Atlantic City. Now, not the electric Nebraska Atlantic City that was recorded. But what they started to do with it live with the E Street Band, I think, is a very powerful rendition of that song. And is one of the things that doesn't lose the intensity or the atmosphere of the original. And I think it has a great power to it. So, any sort of like if anyone listens to a live version of that, I'm sure there's some live stuff on Spotify, or even if you're a real Bruce nut, I don't have to ask how many bootlegs you've got. And
well, you don't have to be honest, you don't have to buy them as bootlegs. You can buy them, don't they? They release them as official releases now.
There's lots of official releases.
Really
There's
cool.
lots of stuff on Spotify. And if I remember correctly, was that version of Atlantic City on live in New York City? I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Well done, Bruce Springsteen, for looking after his fans by giving people an opportunity to go through and check out all these songs. Because if you were doing some research on a book, for example, Brad, and a Bruce Springsteen biography, and there are going to be lots of biographies written in the future, you'd have to go through Simon and listen to all these songs, to get to, a fuller appreciation. Whereas, the authors before all the stuff was released, John, didn't have it. So all they were listening to was, innuendo, hearsay, and the official release. So I kind of like that. And, we always celebrate that here on the channel. Any artist that is releasing back catalogs for their fans deserves a pat on the back. And Bruce, clearly, John, loves his fans, and he's given you guys everything now, isn't he?
Yeah, I remember when I first got into him around the Born USA time, like at that point he hadn't released a live album, that came after, and that was again, the big catch cry always about Springsteen was, but you got to see him live. There were people that didn't get it in the albums, and the fans will say, but you got to see him live, and that'll turn you. Sort of, I think that now, and he said it in a few interviews now. He goes, they said, why did you, let him do a movie about you now? And he said, well, I'm old now. I don't care what I do. I don't care what I get up to.
Great,
and I think he's less precious about it. And I think, rightly so, he curated his output at the time. Obviously in his earlier days like that. But I think now anything that comes out, like I said, the earlier this year, he put out 7 lost albums, and I think some of them were maybe actual album projects, and some of them were just a bunch of unreleased stuff that got put together as an album. But as you want to say, if I'm a big fan or whatever, I had to listen to that, and I've really only listened through most of it once, and I haven't really had the thing to go back to it. But then there's some Bruce stuff that I listen to daily. Again, you find what you find when it comes to music and what it means to you. But definitely the stuff that's coming out now with the released live shows, both stretching back to the old days and not, and releases from the vault and things like Electric Nebraska, which we thought we would never ever see. So we're kind of a bit spoiled these days. But again, I think a lot of that stuff comes out as reference points and as a further insight for the nutty fan who's a bit obsessed to really get a bit more of an idea of the songs that they've been listening to since they were out anyway.
100%. But, 100%. And it gives you the fuller picture, and that it can't be anything other than celebrated. I've read a couple of fan comments, and it's the usual story, Brad and Simon, where you'll get the fan, it's just a cash grab. It's a cash grab. Well, okay. So what if it is a cash grab? But the point is, it's a documentary. It's an outlaying of a whole career, of just about a 40-year career, Simon. So what? And he's getting older now. So why wouldn't he want to have control over his legacy, like Dylan and Neil Young are doing? They're having control over it.
No, completely. I think that it's the bottom line is you don't have to buy them, do you?
No.
Dylan has that amazing kind of bootleg series, which is dozens of, concerts and all sorts of oddities and bits and pieces now. They're for the fans, they're for the people who want to have everything, the completists, and that's fine. I think, none of us have had to go and buy the, £129 Nebraska set just to get, we can go and listen it on Spotify if we need to, but I don't particularly feel the need to. And I agree with you, John. That 8-album set is, it's interesting from a historical point of view, stuff he was doing, but I would say that I completely agree with they haven't been released until now, and then you release them as a thing, and that's fine, and that's for the fans. But I wouldn't expect, the more casual fans to have, to go and to need to have to buy those things, the official, and it's that interesting thing about looking back at somebody's career, and we're looking back, 40 years to Nebraska, and what have we said? He made the right decisions. All those decisions, it was all bloody right, and not wrong, and it wasn't, and I'm minded with all of that with Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan's, there's a song by Bob Dylan called Blind Willie McTell, which is one of his greatest songs, but he never released it. Didn't release it till much later. He just kind of kept in the things. Why is that? Because it didn't fit where he was at that particular time. It's a great song on his own, and it is an amazing song on his own, but it didn't fit where he was, with the rest of the stuff that he's released. So he didn't release it, which is, there's some other stuff, Caribbean Wind and things. But so I think it's, that artistic vision and that being able to hold it. And, John Lando, hats off to him for managing his way with a record company through that, so that 50 years later you can go, that was the right decision. They were all the right decisions, and they're made for artistic reasons, the right reasons, the artistic reasons, and not the commercial reasons. And the fact that the commercials came off the back of it is excellent. Born in the USA was huge and stuff. It was always going to be huge, but, didn't start. I mean, Nebraska did all right, got in nearly the top of the charts, number 3 in the charts. So, a lot of people bought it.
And was that another one that sort of like did it fall off pretty quickly, or?
I can't remember, to be honest, but I think I think it sold respectably.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
I know that it wasn't put it this way, it wasn't a flop, and it wasn't what the record company was afraid it was going to be. And then also, it wasn't it was more of a hiccup than a career derailing event, because then he hopped straight back into it with Born in the USA, was bigger than ever, and that album was on the charts for at least a year, and kept. You're doing well if you can get 7 out of 12 songs as your singles, and a good 4 or 5 of them being top 10 singles. I don't know if they actually were all top 10, but they were all highly rotating on the radio and on the MTV type shows and networks. Yeah. So and I'm interested in if you guys that the 2 of you that have read the book note any big deviation from between the movie and the book. Anything left out or anything that wasn't in the particularly book?
No, I think they, I'm clearly a film. I don't think they took any. I mean, I think that the biggest kind of artistic license they took was having Faye Romano, the girl interest. I think that's clearly an amalgamation of more than one person.
Definitely, in respect to the privacy of whoever he had those interactions with.
Yeah, but I also think that she is like a metaphor for the kind of family life. I mean, if you think about the way characters develop, John, through Born to Run, then Into Darkness, and then they arrive past the river and they're all kind of grown up. They're all 30. Yeah. They all got families, kids and stuff. And he's wondering, I know this, he was wondering at that time how his personal life fitted in with that. And I think that she is a kind of metaphor in a way for that kind of family life that, you know, part of him craves, but has no idea how to get to.
And again, I haven't read that book, and I haven't read his autobiography, but I did see somewhere mentioned, don't ask me where, that someone said the rocking horse situation was mentioned in his biography. So obviously it's taken little snippets of his life. And again, as you have to do for a movie, condensed it down. But I tell you what, the one thing I did notice were the details. I've got the type of mentality that I get distracted by stupid little things. And even though we didn't really have a lot of, they didn't have lines, the care they took with the E Street Band casting and costumes and the guitars they were playing and all the stuff on there. The scenes in the diner where he's wearing that check shirt, I'm convinced that's the shirt from the cover of The River. It looked exactly like it.
It was the real thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. And the only thing I could fault Jeremy Allen White's physical manifestation of Bruce. He walked like him. He stood like him. Didn't quite strum the guitar the same way. But having said that, one thing that we haven't said yet is that Jeremy Allen White did all the singing in the movie and did it well enough that John Landau asked Bruce, "Is that you or him?" When particularly on I'm on Fire. So I don't think that he captured his speaking voice as authentically as I'd like. It did sound like a Bruce Springsteen imitation to me, even though Bruce keeps saying he wasn't doing one. But
I didn't think he was doing one either, to be honest. I didn't think
he was pinpoint spot on with the singing.
The guitar playing, he was taught by a Nashville guitar player called J.D. Simon, and apparently, and he said to J.D. Simon, first thing he said, "Oh, I'm really looking forward to learning the guitar." J.D. Simon said to him, "We ain't got time for that. You're going to learn how to play 5 Bruce Springsteen songs, and that's what we're going to do." So he can play 5 Bruce Springsteen songs well enough to fool us all, but nothing else.
And on the acoustic side, he did it fantastically. I don't know if he only sang the electric stuff or if he was able to go, but I said, in the Born in the USA session recording scenes and in the scenes that they had on him live on stage.
That's him
again,
singing.
just because I've probably watched too many Springsteen videos, I noticed his strumming hand was a bit different. But there's one camera shot where they're behind him, and Manny's got that Born in the USA back cover pose where he's got the one knee cocked, and he did it exact. So look, I'll give full credit to the job that particularly the 2 main actors playing Bruce and John did, and just looking at all the other details in the film, there was nothing that sort of pulled me out of the immersion of the experience, thinking, "Oh, that's wrong." 100% to them on that.
I agree.
Awesome.
I was put off by any of it. I just went in. With all film, you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit. Yeah. But seconds in, I'm very comfortable with where I am, what I'm watching. And I thought they did a fantastic job. And the acoustic guitar that he strums all the way through is a 55 Gibson J200 that Bruce sent him. He said this is close to it's not the actual guitar, but it's the same make of because a year earlier, I think, than the guitar.
He was saying it's probably the nicest guitar that anyone's ever learned on.
Yeah. Simon, so we started off with you, so we'll go to you, we'll go to John, and then Brad and myself. So just a couple of thoughts and rank the film out of 10, please. 10 being obviously incredible. Some final thoughts, please.
Well,
and
I
your
think
score.
that, as I said, I think it's a really interesting film. I think the way that it's shot is very close up. You're watching on a really big screen, like close to the front. You literally have to do this to get the two heads in. A lot, it's a lot of headshots. A lot of people talk, very, very close up and very intimate. And I think that's a bit of filmmaking that really helped. I think that I liked that, as I've said, the kind of themes of that trust, brotherhood stuff with John Lando, and Bruce, and they are preserving his artistic vision. I think that's a really interesting theme, as Brad, you've spoken about that as well. I think that underlying men's health theme, the contrast with the toxic masculinity of today, and the fact that Lando says to Springsteen, I'm out of my depth here. You have to get professional help. And I think, 1981, that's probably quite a bold, brave thing to, to be able to say to your friend, that recognize you've got a problem. I don't know if you ever had to do it. I've had to say to somebody, I don't have the necessary professional skills to be able to help you, and that's I'm doing it in 2010, not 1981. I don't think I would even have understood the words. And I think that that, to me, that's a really powerful message another powerful message in the if Bruce Springsteen can do it, everyone can do it, as a as a position for us all in men's health and things. I loved it. Just a couple of coders, but when he goes into the bar and he when he's a kid and he goes to the bar to get his dad out of the bar, well, that's on the Broadway show. That's the story from the Broadway show that he did.
Okay.
So that's another sort of truism, but that was really nice. So all in all, I thought it was really interesting movie. I really like the themes in it. I think the actors did a fantastic job of portraying what they needed to portray. I think it's it's not a blockbuster. Don't go, as I said at the beginning, don't go expecting a helicopter explosion. It's not happening. But as a film that that has some really good themes and leaves you really thinking at the end about and I think is very moving in some places. I think absolutely worth a 10 out of 10. Never a skip from me. But I should qualify that a bit, because if your thing is blockbusters and big gestures and big things, this is not the film for you. I did write down and think that it's like an art house movie, and it happens to be number one in for the first week in the UK. I was quite astonished at the fact it was number one in the UK to start with. So that's my feeling about it. It's an art house movie. It's a lot of close-ups, sort of being able to act. What's going on in your head is really difficult. But that's really what's going on. Interiors, interiors of Bruce Springsteen's head, interior of the house at Colt's Neck where they're recording, interior of the studio. So it's very much an interiors film. But I am giving it a 10 out of 10 because I really enjoyed it, and I think there's a lot in there that a lot of people could take away, and relate to. John.
Yeah, look, I've got pretty much a positive reaction to it as well. The only thing that I would have pulled it up on, there were a couple of scenes. Overall, a very well-written movie. And again, I've got no comparison to the source material other than I know the story from knowing the story. There were a couple of bits of dialogue that were obvious exposition that you think to yourself, much like in a cop show when one cop says to the other cop something that they wouldn't say because they already know that stuff. There was a scene with the roadie sort of saying too much about the recording machine they were using, and then there was a scene with John and Bruce out on the street talking about stuff that it just seemed like saying the things that they already knew, but more for the benefit of the audience. So I'll excuse that. Overall, the acting fantastic again. Like you said, there's a lot of acting. good acting is bouncing off each other, but when you have a scene where the actor has got no one else to act against, Jeremy Allen White did a fantastic job with that. Really brought the intensity out, really brought the emotions out, and was very, very believable. If you don't know Bruce really well, you're not going to be put off by his speaking like Bruce, which that was the only thing I sort of found I didn't quite. I don't think he landed that, but the emotional aspect and the essence of Bruce definitely got it 110%. It was fantastic. As someone who, again, knows all the background and went in with an idea of what I was going to see, I still found it engaging. And there was enough happening in there that I wasn't expecting and didn't know to keep me interested. And then I've also got the viewpoint from my daughter's perspective of her going in and just having no preconceived notions other than the very bare bones sort of like background that I gave her. So she rated it an 8. She said it was a very interesting film and enjoyed it. I wanted to know, is it a film that would only appeal to Bruce Springsteen fans? And obviously it's a small survey group, but that survey group of one says, no, definitely it's not just for Springsteen fans. And as a Springsteen fan, or as a Springsteen's music fan, I'll give it a 9. There were a couple of things that niggled at me, but definitely for a movie that runs at 119 minutes, just 1 minute shy of 2 hours, it didn't feel like 2 hours. We got to the end before we realized it was coming. And I think they bookended, I'm not going to say what it was, but I think they bookended the film perfectly. The black and white flashback scenes where Bruce was a little boy, again, give a great insight, and I thought that having them in black and white was a good effect. And if anybody's got any interest in music in general, I think they'd obviously find it intriguing. But I think that anyone looking for a good story and a bit of more of a human story would enjoy it too. So if someone asked me, should I go see this, I would tell them, yeah, for sure. Go.
Awesome.
Right.
For me, Deliver Me From Nowhere, I have to say I'm on the same length as Simon and John. I think it was a great film and great acting. I think the themes they touched on makes it a standalone movie, whether you're a Bruce Springsteen fan or not. The isolation, the father-son conflict, the art, and I think it's a great film. The minimalistic visuals you mentioned, John, about there's scenes where the actor is on their own as well, and there's some very powerful scenes there. And being a bit of a film buff, I think that those minimalistic visuals and the sounds and mirrored the Nebraska album, having that stripped back feel. The quiet, moody, character-driven sort of film is it's not a full career biopic, but like you said, John, 2-hour movie, just short of, and I could have sat for another hour watching more content from that film, like if they continued going on from that point where it ends. Look, a quality film. I think these days a lot of films are rubbish. I think this is well worth watching, whether you're a Bruce Springsteen fan or not. And I too am going to give it 10 out of 10, guys. Never skip. Andrew.
And your concluding comments. I too was surprised by the film. I will say this though, I was really, really concerned about going to see the film because hours of fact is, you know, Bruce has a political opinion, whether you agree with that or not. That's besides the point. But I was concerned that I was going to go and watch a film where I was going to get an overtly Bruce Springsteen political platform preached to me. And I'm being serious, guys. I was concerned about that. You know, so it's completely apolitical, and that surprised me. And because of that, I think it's incredible because the story is just relying on the story itself, the events of what the film's depicting, the crisis, Simon, that you said that he was going through, that existential crisis was going through, and the positivity that we were getting from other people surrounding him. His manager in particular, and the way that the manager was talking to his wife about Bruce and feeding off that relationship so that he could best, help Bruce was just incredible. I just think it's an amazing film too, Brad, whether you're, a casual music fan or a serious music fan like the four of us and people watching, you'll be a better person by going to see it. It's just an incredible film. And I too have given it a 10 out of 10. And I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm looking forward at the beginning of the year, the four of us getting together to rank Born in the USA. Because while this film talks about Nebraska and that album and how important that was for Bruce Springsteen, and he talks about that himself being the statement of who he is as an artist, and to 1984's Born in the USA, I listened to it completely in a different way, Brad. You know how we talk about that often. So that's why I think this film's going to do so well. Because it just feeds into 1984's Born in the USA, John. It's incredible. What an incredible film. Loved it. 10 out of 10. Never a skip.
Well done, gents. Well done. That was a
well done, you guys. I've really enjoyed the chat.
Yeah. No, it's always good. Always good to catch up with yourself, John, as well. Have you on the channel. Fantastic. And great to do a film review. I enjoyed it. It's good.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely lock in Simon and Brad and John. We won't have any time this year to do it, but certainly early next year, I'd love to get together to talk about Born in the USA because it's certainly got me on fire. So thank you, guys. Thank you for your time. And also, Rock Professor's going to do a shout out to everybody, but in particular, we want to say a special shout out to Sonia for jumping in and saying g'day to us.
Yeah. Thanks, Sonia.
Yes, and Sonia, it's great to have you back, and great that you're on the road to recovery. Helene, yes, we'll be doing Back in Black.
We are.
I see somebody said to us, but we run out of albums. No, not ever. We just keep expanding our horizons.
I think Back in Black will be the next album we do after we do Outlaws, eh? We'll lock that in. Okay.
Before Christmas,
Well done.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, Arvin, nice to see you, mate. And again, thank you for the CD. Fantastic. I'm really enjoying it. Who else we had? Sporty Otter Pop. I don't know whether we persuaded you either way, Sporty Otter Pop. You can tell us whether you go and see it or not. But he's waiting on what we said to see if he was going to see it or not. So, Gretch Zeppelin, nice to see you, Gretch. And I hope you're good. Thank you, Tony Bowen, as well, dropping in to say hi. Johnny Heartbreaker, thanks, Johnny, for all your support. Tony, Helene, Gretch, Tony, Johnny, Brad, Helene. I think that's probably everyone. Gretch, John said D351. Yes, thank you, John, for coming along, making us a foursome. for this week.
I always
Really great to have
appreciate
you on.
being invited in.
Yeah.
That you put up with my ramblings.
Put up with all our ramblings. And thanks to Helene for the super chat as well. Helene, that's very kind of you. Thank you so much for the support of the band. And we'll see you next week when we're doing American Band and the Outlaws first album. Fantastic. Take it easy. Have a great week. We'll be back next week. Take care all. Bye.